So why do we like large models? Is it because monkey brain thinks they're cool? Or do we just want to challenge ourselves building a large model? What about the satisfaction from painting a masterpiece that now needs to look good from 10 feet away? Or is it because big model mean big firepower? But one question is always a constant. What's the point of this big f*** off model? Well, let's talk about it. So welcome back everyone, it's me the Warhammer complainy guy, Revan/Handy, destroyer of wallets and maker of terrible financial decisions. Back with another video that can hopefully earn your subscription and a like for the almighty YouTube algorithm. Well, I feel like this video is a long time coming and also is me somewhat addressing the reason behind the several $1,000s unpainted resin brick, or bricks in this case. So first, let's start with why we like big models like Titans and story time of why I bought a Warlord Titan in the first place as my first venture into Warhammer. But what is the point of large models like Titans and super heavies? Well, one is that they're just really cool and bring a sense of scale to Warhammer, because having large-sized models puts the scale of the setting into perspective. This is one of the main complaints some people have with Battletech compared to Warhammer, which is that the minis feel too small to sell that these are giant walkers, which is why it would be awesome if we got more mechs of this size. Having this sense of scale also makes the game more fun too, since you have your 8-foot tall super soldiers or basic bitch infantrymen being backed up by huge tanks or walkers that tower over them, more so if it's a Titan, which also heavily depends on the rider. Large models like super heavies, knights, and titans, no matter which faction, will scratch that itch, especially when they're fighting other large models, because then you get Pacific Rim-like fights or Gundam, but not as balls to the walls that you can imagine taking place on the tabletop. Having these large models also looks awesome in a display case with all your other minis, because depending on how much space you have, you can get creative with the ways you display your miniatures, which also shows the scale between the miniatures, because you expect the huge mech to be, well, huge compared to infantry, which is what Warhammer gets decently right in that regard. You're also adhering most likely to the rule of cool, where you get a large model because nothing is cooler than a giant mech with big guns or giant melee weapons. But now it's story time for how I ended up getting a Warlord Titan as my first Warhammer miniature, since I don't think I've really told this story yet in more detail outside of when I stream. So it all started back in 2011 with the release of Space Marine 1 and the Lucius Pattern Warlord Titan level. But after playing that level, I went, hey, I want that. And unfortunately, there was no model available, and so it faded into my memory. Then in 2015, I saw an article for the largest Warhammer miniature ever made, the Warlord Titan. I was interested. My inner giant mech enjoyer was excited. And then I saw the price. Fast forward. The year is October of 2018, and it's my last hurrah as a cosplayer at Stan Lee's LA Comic-Con's cosplay contest. And after many agonizing hours in full armor, the results were being called. Third place? My name wasn't called. Second place? Again, it wasn't me. I sat there in the wheelchair wondering, did I just waste my entire day for nothing? And was the 700 hours I poured into this cosplay not good enough? Then came first place. I was ready to admit defeat, and then they said congratulations to Handy Cosplay. My winnings were a trophy, medallion, 3D print of me in my costume, and a large chunk of money. After buying a new PC and still having a decent amount of money left about a year later, something big, expensive, and made of resin was surfacing from the back of my mind. And that's the story of how I got a Warlord Titan as my first Warhammer miniature, along with a Porphyrion soon after. But large models are really fucking expensive, especially in Warhammer. So is there really a point to even owning them if they cost so damn much? Larger plastic models are also starting to suffer higher prices due to GW's insatiable greed with the yearly price increases, where a knight back in 2020 was $120, and now in 2025 it's $195. And I don't really need to expand upon the cost of Forge World because we all know it's ridiculous. Which is why the best time to start Warhammer is usually right now, because the prices always go up. And I could also compare Warhammer kits to Gundam kits, but that's for a future video. But when talking about the cost of the model, you also need to examine the amount of fun or time you'll spend building and painting it, otherwise known in economics as opportunity cost. If I use my Warlord Titan as an example, this thing took me 3 months total to assemble the correct way, which means washing the parts, releasing them from their brick casting gates, cleaning up mold lines, complaining to Forge World, pins, clamps, power tools, 2-part epoxy, super glue, sub-assemblies, gap fillers, and using magnets for the customization of weapons and heads. You know, magnets, like the ones used in a mag case from the sponsor of this video, Tabletop Stronghold. If you really want to protect your minis, unlike foam carrying cases that rub off paint and break the spiky bits, you should get a Mag Case 2.0 that comes in multiple sizes and even has case and terrain combos if you want to make a game table. But if you want to protect your large financial investment, be it a normal army or an army heavy on large plastic models, the Mag Case 2.0 will get the job done. With its strong MDF construction and adjustable magnetic trays that can support the full weight of the all-powerful Magnet Wizard, and 2 fully loaded mag cases. So no matter what game system you partake in, there will be a mag case that will suit your needs. Because why would you settle for less? What are you gonna do, use a cardboard box? Do you want your minis to break? Due to life circumstances, the Mag Case 2.0 Mini is perfect for me due to disabilities, since it's small and can fit any of my hyper elite armies that aren't knights because my arms are twigs. But if you want to help me help you, or even get a Christmas gift for a friend so they stop using a cardboard box, use my link in the pinned comment or description and use code CRAFT25 for 25% off your next order. So thank you Tabletop Stronghold for sponsoring this video. If you want to get any mag case or case and terrain combo that ships pretty much anywhere in the world for free, go to tabletopstronghold.com. But back to the fun versus cost problem. This cost versus fun conundrum pushes the question of what's the point of owning these large models to the forefront. Because while yes, building these large models can be fun, it can also be a massive slog. But does this outweigh the cost of the model itself? Because you have to spend an exorbitant amount of time and money on some of these models compared to random infantry models or a tank that has way less parts. Unless of course it's a more recent Horus Heresy mini. These large models, in my opinion, are meant to be massive time sinks because on top of taking a long time to build them, you're also probably going to be spending a significant amount of time painting them. Since the 3-foot rule is now the 10-foot rule, because the increase in size means more effort is needed to make it look good from both further away and closer up. Since the details are now more well pronounced, and you have way more painting real estate for things like decals and freehand, so you have to make it look good. But a lot of people nowadays measure the cost of their hobby versus the time or fun they'll have while doing it. If I use the Warlord Titan and all of my knights as an example, my Warlord Titan was well worth the cost to me at the time because it was 3 months total of work that didn't make me go insane during the Couve lockdown in 2020, and it set my expectations going forward with Warhammer, because I knew if I could build a Warlord Titan, I could build anything. The knights were the same since I eventually made magnetization guides for every knight chassis, so for me the cost was well worth it in both helping further my YouTube hobby, but also the experience I gained building model kits. But now the final part of what's the point of these large models is their role on the tabletop. Large models like Knights and Titans are a highly debated topic in the tabletop sphere of Warhammer because it's a delicate balancing act for a single large model or a hyper elite army that can have anywhere from 4 to 8 models total, and it feels even worse when you consider that these models go for upwards of nearly $200 or thousands of dollars for a Titan. Because you don't want it to be like an 8th edition, where taking a Castellan or other large knight significantly increase your chances of winning, but make the toughness too high or too low, and it becomes does your army have high strength and AP units, or it sucks to be you and your paper mache knight. Make the weapon strength too high or low, and then everything it fires at will get vaporized, or it hits like a wet noodle and can't kill anything. Give it too many or too few wounds, and then it's either a bullet sponge or Cadian shock troops in a trench coat. This balancing act is also why GW is so hesitant to give Titanic units a flat invuln save outside of getting shot at, since they usually fold when something gets into melee with them. But the biggest factor that can push things too far is points cost. And we got a front row seat to this in 10th edition and 9th edition. make the points cost too low, and then you have a huge problem of too many high stat stick models that will decimate any army. We had this earlier in the year for 10th edition, where you could take 4 big knights and a few armigers, where it's usually been 2 to 3 big knights and some armigers historically. Then if the points cost is way too high like it was in 9th edition, large knights like Questoris and up are not a viable option. And instead, it just turns into spamming as many armigers as you can. This is how we got the walking the dogs list of Abaddon and all war dogs, which was really boring. This delicate balancing act is why every other edition, knights or other large models are either incredibly busted or struggling to do anything. But Titans are the poster child of what's the point of this large model: exorbitantly high points costs, a ridiculous number of wounds, and an absurd amount of long-range firepower, and also stupidly high monetary cost. The Warhound Titan is the only Titan you can run in a 2,000 point game if we ignore the equally large Acastus Knights, since it's 1,100 points with some decent firepower, while its larger counterparts are over 2,000 points and can be taken down just as easily in melee. If we go to the extreme end with the Warlord Titan, it has weapons that can one-shot pretty much any vehicle, but it can have a tough time clearing high model count units or units with invuln saves. Large models like Imperial Titans, Eldar Titans, or other big models are unfortunately relegated to being shelf queens due to their high points costs, with knights just barely escaping shelf queen status since they are their own army. But in my opinion, the point of these large models is to challenge yourself with a hobby project outside of the norm involving cool models way larger than what's normally seen on the tabletop, which can then be used for fun narrative events or a conversation piece for why you spent so much money on this giant resin brick. So there's nothing wrong with wanting to own one of these large models, and while there might not be a point to them for some, to others, there will be. But don't let anyone get in the way of you enjoying the things you like, because at the end of the day, what's the point of these large models is all up to you. Anyways, thanks for watching the video, and a huge thank you to the Gigaists of the Chads right here, the channel members and Twitch subscribers. So if you too want to be a Giga Chad and help fund these stupid adventures, consider becoming a member of either for access to the member section of the Discord and other things. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe along with Super Hype if you're on mobile, but I have to go make more terrible financial decisions, so I'll see you all in the next video, and remember, when you play Warhammer, being poor is a choice.